This is Rebel Therapist, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are trained as therapists and who want to level up their businesses, make a bigger impact, feel fulfilled, and be very well paid. I'm your host, Annie Schusler. Hello, my friends. It's just you and me, and this is going to be a two-parter. I actually recorded it thinking it was going to be one podcast episode, and then I realized, man, this is a mother, and I want to give you time to digest part one, and then I'm going to introduce part two next time. So what we're going to talk about in this podcast episode and in the next one is the stages that a rebel business goes through. So let's go ahead and dive into part one right now. So one of my Rebel Therapist Masterminders mentioned recently that she really likes it that these episodes feature people at different stages of business. And thank you, Kelsey, by the way, for pointing that out, and I adore you. So that comment got me to thinking that I've never really talked about the different stages of building a rebel business and what gets people from one stage to the next. There are really different tasks and different mindset issues that come up at these different stages. And I realized that for me, as I was at earlier stages, it would have really helped me to have an episode about that. So I am making that episode for you right now. I'm going to talk about what I know I needed and what I see my clients and my colleagues who I'm close to needing in each of these different stages. And I'm going to give you examples, and I'm going to refer you to some of the Rebel Therapist episodes that you might want to check out about the people talking about what they're going through at each of these stages. So as we go through this conversation, I'm going to use myself as an example, and I'm going to mention the places where my own journey could have gone better if I had looked at the stage that I was in differently and if I had made different choices. So one of my biggest delights in life is when I can help you shorten your learning curve in creating your rebel business. So I'm hoping this episode can do that. I'm going to use my own labels and parameters for talking about these stages, and they might not fit with the labels that you've heard before. They're incredibly unlikely to fit with the labels you've heard before. So for example, some folks would say that there's first a development stage, and then there's a startup stage. And I'm combining those, and I really think they belong together, and you're going to see why. I'm particularly talking about what stage you're in with your business beyond a traditional private practice. But you can take a lot of stuff that I'm talking about today, and you can apply it to a private practice as well. It's just that I'm focusing on what I call rebel businesses, which are businesses beyond the therapy room. I'm going to talk about these stages. The create stage, that's going to be the first stage we talk about, and this is where you create your business beyond the therapy room. The grow stage is where your business starts making a real income. And then the expand stage is where you really hit your stride. And I'm in the expand stage. I might choose to stay here, and it may be my preference to keep my business a micro business where I am the main provider of services. And I'll talk about that more in this episode. That's what I'm really loving. And I'm really able to increase my income here too. The stage after that, I'm going to call limitless growth. And this is growing your empire. And if I choose to do this, then I'm going to let you know about it. I'm going to teach you all about it. And I have featured people on the podcast who've done this, and I'm going to refer you to those episodes. So as you're listening, you might get confused about what stage you're in. And you might feel like, oh, I'm partway between create and grow. Or I've got some aspects of expand happening, but I haven't really done everything that Annie's mentioning in this other stage yet. So if that's the case, I want you to allow yourself to just take a bird's eye view of the whole journey rather than forcing yourself into one label. So notice the places where you hear something that could help you in the journey that you're on. For each stage, I'm going to talk about the biggest internal changes that can happen, what we most have to do during that stage, and what can go wrong. I'm also going to tell you about what programs I have to help you through the different stages. The first stage we're going to talk about is the first stage, and that is create. So at the beginning of this first stage, this expansion beyond the treatment room has not happened yet. So this is where you go from not having a program to having a program that you're selling to people who are delighted with it. And this is unfortunately the stage where most people quit. So you go in this stage from not having an additional website to having one. You go from not having an email list to having an email list. You're really creating your presence in this new business. And you might already have a private practice, or you might have already worked for someone else's business, but in this new business, you are starting at the beginning. In episode 115, which is titled What Drives a Rebel Therapist, I talked about how in the first year of my coaching business, I made a grand total of $7,000. Grand total, like not after expenses. So that would definitely be the year that I was in this stage, this create stage. If you want to hear someone else talking about being in the middle of this create stage, you might like to go to episode 113 with Lindsay Bryan Podvin, and that's called Your First Scaled Offer. Let's look at the biggest internal changes that I see happening in this create stage. You're going to grow a new entrepreneurial identity. And even if you already have a business, this is different. And you're going to be building your willingness to fail. There are some things that we really need at this stage, and I didn't realize how much I needed these things. And I didn't take my needs as seriously as I would if I were to time travel back and go back to this stage. The overall thing that we need in this stage is to create a sacred space for growth and to nurture that space and structure it for ourselves. We need to really commit to the process. And that's both in our mindset and in the things that we actually do. We've got to believe really hard that we can do this thing, even though it's going to get really hard. We've got to develop a big why to help us get through those tough moments. And we need to be able to return to that why. Why am I doing this? Over and over again. You got to set up time structures for yourself. So in episode 112, we heard from Ivy and from Leticia about how they set up these time management structures. And I also shared my own time management strategies and energy management strategies. One person in my mastermind recently talked about the need to touch their Rebel business in some way every day. That would be another one of those kind of tactics. It's really important to find ways to make your business a priority. At this stage, at the beginning of this stage, it doesn't really exist for other people yet. And so you have to make it real. You got to get the right people around you at this point. And that means getting people around you who are ahead in their businesses. And even more importantly than that, getting people around you who are moving forward with their own businesses. Whatever stage they're in, they're moving forward and they're taking their businesses seriously. You're already doing something right by listening to this podcast and getting input from people who are doing it and who are taking action and taking it seriously. I also believe in not talking about your business during this stage with people who can't yet be supportive. And really, it is not their fault. They love you and they don't get this yet. And they're not willing to be dishonest or blow smoke up your ass. They just don't get it yet. And they will get it when you get to the later stages. So don't let yourself blame them for slowing you down. Instead, get input from people who believe in what you're doing already. So here's some of the stuff that happens in this create stage. You get clear on your niche, which you can also call your people, the problem you're helping your people solve. You have tons of conversations with colleagues who serve these same people. You have even more tons of conversations with these people. And you mine your memory of what it's like to be this person, if you've been this person or you are this person, and what you know about your clients who are these folks. You also might do things like social media research where you're looking for what people are saying who are part of this niche. You know, what kinds of complaints they're having, what kinds of conversations they're having online. Whenever you're listening or you're having these conversations, some of the questions that you want to ask are, how would you describe your problem? What do you wish things were like instead? What have you already tried to solve this problem? Like, have you done other programs? Have you read books? Have you tried other solutions? What were the outcomes of those attempts? What's your biggest goal around this problem? And what, besides price, would make a program a no-brainer for you? And I've got these questions in the show notes, so I don't want you to think you have to pull over and write them down. So in this stage, you're creating just enough of a presence to get started. That means having a pilot offer, having a simple website, which might just be a one-page website, having a way for people to join your email list, which could be a freebie or a webinar, or even just the emails themselves, and having a practice of marketing regularly, developing that for yourself. And those are the things that you want to get in place quickly so you can start serving people really quickly. Let's talk about what can go wrong in this stage. Quitting can go wrong in this stage. Self-doubt and comparison and excuses about what else you have going on that's getting in the way of creating this sacred space for yourself, that can all lead you to quit. And this is something I almost did in that first year, in the moments when I didn't hold on to the vision about what I was creating, and in the moments when I didn't get myself around people who were also moving forward in their businesses. Perfectionism can go wrong here too. So I see some people trying to perfect their websites or their free offers for way too long, rather than getting those things out there and starting the process of serving and having conversations. The program I have for people who are in this stage or who are about to be in this stage is called Create Your Program. And this is where I'm going to support you and a small group of people over 5 weeks to walk through this process step by step. And this is where you're going to create structures and put systems into place and get support in this mindset work. And this is exactly the program that I would have loved to have in that first year. And I don't have regrets. I mean, it happened exactly as it needed to happen so that I would know how to create this program for you. But if I could have had this program, my process would have happened like 10 times faster. Now, if you know you're not interested in the Create Your Program experience, then I'm going to see you next time when we talk about the next stages of growing a Rebel business. And I also want to thank you so much for listening, and I will see you then. If you're in the create stage, this is your program. This is the program I would have loved to do when I was in the create stage. And it's called Create Your Program. It's a 5-week small group coaching experience with me, and it starts on Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. I'm going to be going to Italy in June and July, so I'm not going to be offering this again until the fall of 2020. And in the fall, it's going to go up in price. It's still going to be way beyond worth the price at that point, so I don't want you to worry about that, but I just want you to know. And you can learn about the program and apply at rebeltherapist.me/create. So there is an application, and it's not the kind of application that's asking, are you worthy? It's the kind of application that's just to figure out if this is the right thing for you. As we're releasing this episode, this program's only 6 weeks away. So here's how it works. We're going to meet over video for weekly 1-hour meetings for 4 weeks. And you're going to complete some important but reasonably sized chunks of work on your program between the sessions. And you're going to set aside about 2 hours every week between sessions. In week 1, you're going to identify your big why, set yourself up with time and energy management practices for your new business, and you're going to learn the overall steps of creating your program. In week 2, you're going to clarify your niche and learn from examples of rebellious businesses so you can put together your own unique program. And then in week 3, you're going to choose from all of the potential format options and you're going to craft your pilot offer. In week 4, you'll create an authentic and doable audience building strategy. So this is the stuff you're going to be doing over time to build and nurture your audience. And then in week 5, we have a special 4-hour graduation and launching workshop. And you're going to take everything you've worked on during the previous 5 weeks, and you're going to take some guided steps to actually launch your program. I'm going to tell you up front, the hardest thing about this 5-week program, and I think one of the most brilliant things about it, is that it requires decisions. So it requires you to make decisions and get yourself out of the really bad habit of indecision about what you're creating. So to get your spot in this program, you're going to go over to rebeltherapist.me/create, and you're going to go ahead and apply. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to see you next time where we talk about the next stages of growth. Have a beautiful couple weeks.